It was supposed to be an ordinary night. Drinks, laughter, the easy comfort of familiar faces. Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, their relationship strained yet still clinging to old affection, spent those final hours entwined in a swirl of emotions. The winter storm raged outside as tensions brewed within. Witnesses described Karen drinking a fair amount of alcohol along with everyone else who was out that night. By morning, the world had changed forever. John O'Keefe, a respected Boston police officer, was found lifeless in the snow, battered and frozen outside of a fellow officer's home. The woman he loved would quickly become the woman accused. Karen Reed's frantic voicemails from that night, pleading and confused, would morph into key evidence in a case built on suspicion and heartbreak. Friends divided, loyalty shattered, and a once private relationship became the centerpiece of a public firestorm. The question lingers like a ghost. Was it a tragic accident or something far darker, born from a night that spiraled out of control? I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments with our continuing coverage of the Karen Reed retrial of the century. We're into week 2. Let's talk about cell phones. Can we talk about cell phones for just a second? I mean, with a cell phone, you've seen the trials on Court TV. There's a lot of evidence in every one of these. The one that I have here, tons of evidence, right? This is my cell phone. You could tell a story with what you find in here between the pictures and tracking all the information, the websites, the locations, the communications. It's like there is more evidence in these now than investigators ever had in the entire rest of their cases in years past. It has completely changed the game of civil litigation, right? But really in criminal cases. Oftentimes the digital footprint becomes the most important evidence. And it's something that jurors are understanding. Like we all say, yep, they're watching me all the time, because they are. They are. They're tracking your movements. They're tracking your communications. So it's very revealing. And it was very revealing for Trooper Michael Proctor, whose private cell phone, the contents became part of the first trial and revealed communications that he never expected anyone to find out about. It revealed his prejudices in the case. It revealed his innermost thoughts about the defendant, Karen Reed, and it undermined the prosecution's case. And that was information that the defense usually doesn't get. It was from his personal phone. So you can understand how important that evidence was in the first trial and will continue to be here in the retrial. Then you talk about the phones that were destroyed by the Bryans, Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. Their phones were smashed, gone. So not so much was revealed there, right? Well, the question is, what was in there and what was the reason for destroying those phones? What was it that they didn't want the world to see? And maybe it was just things that would make them look bad and perhaps cause them potential harm in their private life or in their professional life. Much like what happened to Trooper Proctor. When his personal phone was seized and the contents were extracted, he ended up losing his job. He's gone. And you wonder what evidence may have existed on the phones of Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Well, we'll never know for sure what was on there. But the bottom line, it's going to make these witnesses look questionable in front of the jury as well. Like, why are we doing that? What's going on here? Because everyone knows how much information is in here. Now, let's talk about the victim in the case, John O'Keefe. His cell phone, perhaps the key to the prosecution. We heard it in the opening statement, talking about what the phone was going to reveal on many different levels, not just locations, but communications, health data, movements of the phone, the temperature of the phone, all of it extremely important. And after seeing what happened inside the courtroom today, I believe perhaps one of 2 keys to the prosecution here. 2 keys to this case. Because this is the closest anyone's going to be able to get to understanding where John O'Keefe was, where he went, what happened, what he was doing, what he wasn't doing. And it was all revealed today through the prosecution expert talking about the cell phone of the victim, Officer John O'Keefe. So let's bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, joining us live from outside the courthouse in Dedham, Massachusetts tonight. Matt, this expert, this Cellbrite expert, testified in the first trial, but it just seemed more organized, more thorough, and a lot easier to follow this time around. What can you tell us about the testimony today?
Yeah, it was key testimony in the retrial for Karen Read, and it all came down to cell phones for two individuals for today for this jury. Key players, of course, the victim, John O'Keefe, and then also a key witness that we've yet to hear from, Jen McCabe. So you had Ian Whiffen, who was on the stand today. He works for Cellbrite. That is the company that created the program that was used to analyze both of those phones. And he had some key evidence in front of this jury today. He determined through his analysis that Jen McCabe made the Google search after 6 a.m., not around 2:20 a.m. Take a listen.
You showed us a tab that was opened at 2:27:40, and it had something to do with Hawkmock Sports?
Yes.
In your opinion, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, was that the same tab, that 2:27:40 tab opened for Hawkmock Sports, was that the same tab that later was used for searches or attempted searches at 6:23:51 and at 6:24 relative to how long or how's long to die in cold?
I believe it was, yes.
Now, of course, Vinny, these were lengthy reports and a lot of analysis on both of these two phones that were at the crime scene at one point in time. Both of them were. As for the victim, John O'Keefe, well, what really stood out for that testimony today is his cell phone and what the data showed and what this witness opined. He said that the phone stopped detecting movement around where John O'Keefe's body was found near that flagpole, if you look at a map, and he showed it to the jury. And he also talked about the temperature of the phone drops dramatically after midnight, and then he talked about that stare data that was argued over last year in the first trial, and here's what he said.
Based on the location data, the health data, and the research that I did and the testing, I believe it is more likely that the device was in a vehicle traveling on a road going up an incline versus the location data being incorrect and the person being walking up physical stairs.
Outside the courthouse, Karen Read answered a few questions. I asked her about, that cell phone data and her reaction to it. Take a listen. Karen, any reaction to the Supreme Court not taking up the case?
Nope, fight on. Nothing's breaking me, Matt.
And your reaction to the expert with the Commonwealth saying that it wasn't 2:27 or 2:26, that it was actually after 6 a.m.
Cellbrite says 2:27, and it was deleted. Cellbrite does.
What do you think about that?
So the jury, before their short day today, they only heard the direct examination. Tomorrow will be the cross, Vinny.
And it's an extremely significant cross because the timeline that they laid out today was powerful, if believed, could be potentially devastating to the defense. So the cross-examination crucial. We're going to go through that timeline a little and then the rest of the hour. But right now I want to ask you about something else that happened because they were talking about the cell phone temperature, but the temperature inside that courtroom heated up this afternoon, Matt, when the so-called ARCA expert, Dr. Wolf, was on the stand being questioned, but really being seemingly cross-examined to a certain extent by Hank Brennan. This got kind of nasty.
It was very heated and it was quite uncomfortable at times. I was in the courtroom for much of that. Again, this is outside the presence of the jury. They were sent home for the day, but they were asked about their communications with the defense team and payment, if there was any payment, and any agreement. That's what the majority of the conversation was today. And outside the presence of the jury, they were also asked about their reports and when they would be ready. Here's a bit of those heated discussions.
Do you feel like you're an advocate for the defense?
No, sir.
Are you sure about that?
Sir, I'm on the science and the analysis that I've done. That's the side that I'm on. That is my best guess. I don't recall from a year ago.
When I asked you to guess, I'm asking for your testimony. Did you ever delete texts?
From last year?
Yes.
Yes.
After you had text messages with the defense, did you delete those texts?
Yeah, after the trial concluded, I mean, that's something I routinely do. I'm not going to keep texts from Mr. Jackson, especially now that we're past a year. I would have no reason to keep those, sir.
I'm not asking for the excuse. I'm asking if you did it. Did you delete texts?
Again, it's something that I typically do. I communicate with attorneys all the time, whether it's for trial or inspections. I don't have a habit of keeping a text chain about scheduling or meeting or, hey, can we meet at this time or show up here. I just don't have a habit of keeping that type of text. So he's not my friend, sir.
So you didn't delete texts?
I think I just told you that, yes, I did delete the text.
Oh, you didn't tell me, but you just did now. Thank you.
Objection, Your Honor. So next question, no comments, Mr. Blank.
Yeah, so this went on for quite a while today in that courthouse here behind me. And, you know, the majority of it, again, was focused on, you know, the communication, payments, and what was disclosed between the two before the first trial and before this retrial. That was the bulk of all of the questioning. But really, the gist of them being here for the judge and for the court was figuring out when they were going to turn over their report. And they were saying that it's still not complete, that it's not going to be completed for a few more weeks. They're projecting May 7th for their analysis and their crash reconstruction, the latest opinion that they're going to have before this jury. And they're saying that there's the delay because there's a new crash reconstructionist hired by the Commonwealth. They're not going to call the original Trooper Paul that testified last year. They're calling someone else. And because of that, it changes their opinion. They're going to have to be prepared for that, Vinny.
Yeah, and those witnesses become enormous. But it was really interesting. Hank Brennan turned into criminal defense attorney today, even though he's a prosecutor. It wasn't in front of the jury, but the way he was questioning this expert, it was just oozing classic criminal defense attorney. Whatever Wolf said was going to be wrong. He misstated some of the things that Wolf had said. It was really interesting. If he does that in front of a jury, it could be a problem, I think, personally. But Matt Johnson, in the middle of it all, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks so much. All right, let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III. Also with us, trial attorney David Otunga. He's done a lot of things in his life, folks. You recognize him. And family law attorney Jennifer Brandt with us as well. Here's what I want to do before we start yakking here. I want to play a little more of this back and forth between Hank Brennan and Dr. Daniel Wolf, who is the so-called accident reconstructionist, ARCA expert, they call him, during the course of the trial. Because things got nasty. None of this in front of the jury, though.
I want to talk about back in April. Do you remember having conversations on April 24th with Mr. Jackson? Do you remember that?
I'm going to allow that.
I remember that there were conversations, yes. Specifically what they were to. I remember, I think they were brief, but I don't remember the specifics of them, no.
Well, in the brief conversation, what do you briefly remember about that brief conversation, Doctor?
Well, as I mentioned, I think I had finally received clarification from the DOJ, so I think I was letting him know that I had received that clarification.
Well, sir, you said that was the first call. There were more than one call. There was then 2 calls to the main line. What did you discuss with him during those calls?
Well, to be honest with you, the call to the ARCA main line, I don't even know if I spoke with him. That's just to the main line, not to me directly. So he could have spoken to a receptionist who then tried to get a hold of me. Right, so I don't know if that specific call to the main line was to me or someone else at ARCA.
Well, this is a new relationship, right? You were working on a contract with the federal government. You have only spoken to Mr. Jackson, according to you, twice. You don't remember the early conversations with them and what they were about?
I'm sorry, are we talking about now at the end of April still?
Yeah, I'm still talking at April. April 24, 2024.
Yeah, as I just discussed with you, from what I recall, it was relaying to him the clarification that I got from the Department of Justice.
Right, but that doesn't take more than one call, does it?
I don't know. He may have been in court. There might have been some phone tag. I don't know, sir.
Well, there was a 9-minute call on April 24th, and then there's 2 calls to the ARCA main line, 3 minutes and 2 minutes. Do you remember any of those calls?
Again, when you say 3 minutes and 2 minutes, that makes it sound like, in all likelihood, he contacted the ARCA main line, got a hold of a receptionist or my project manager, and couldn't get a hold of me.
Are you just making that up, or that's what happened?
Sir, that is my best guess. I don't recall from a year ago.
We're not asking you to guess, I'm asking for your testimony.
That's what I recall, sir.
Do you recall him calling a secretary on the main line? That's what you recall?
He very well could have. I just don't know, sir.
But you're making a representation that you recall him using a secretary in the main line. I'm asking what you actually did and actually said. Do you remember speaking to Mr. Jackson, Mr. Jackson or anybody on the defense team after that initial call back on April 24, 2024? Do you remember those 2 phone calls?
Objection, Your Honor.
So let's get an answer.
I don't remember those phone calls specifically, no, sir.
This was crazy because it's not in front of a jury. Hank Brennan is mischaracterizing the answers of the witness and then trying to cross him on his mischaracterization of what he just said. It was weird, Al. I just said Weird Al, by the way. It was strange,
Weird
Al.
That's right. It was very, very weird, and it's disturbing. It's not good lawyering. What he was doing is nitpicking on a phone call that 2 minutes, 3 minutes makes perfect sense that would be to the receptionist or to the service. Obviously, there was not an in-depth conversation going on, and to just keep picking on that, he's not scoring any points. Now, of course, there's no jury there, but if he does that in front of a jury, juries get annoyed by that very, very quickly. I mean, do you remember the phone call you had April 24th in 2000? I mean, like, who remembers? And if it's a 2-minute call to a person who's an expert or a 3-minute call, you know that they didn't have any substantial conversation whatsoever.
Yeah, and what's happening here, and the witness tried to explain this, David, that, listen, he was hired by the DOJ, and then because his report was revealed to the parties here, one party wanted to use them as witnesses because their conclusions helped them. They weren't retained initially to do their analysis by the defense, which put this whole thing in a strange place. And it seems like the prosecution wants to blow this up like this is a big aha moment, when by the nature of this relationship, it's just a strange way that these experts and this defense team got together.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is strange, to say the least, and it was a bad look for the prosecution. It would have been a really bad look if this were in front of the jury. So thankfully for them, it wasn't in front of the jury, but I don't think it really did anything. And to me, it was kind of pathetic. I mean, you know, the prosecutor was kind of meandering and, like you said, just trying to trip the guy up on nonsensical things that don't really matter. However, I understand why he's doing this, because that expert's testimony completely undermines the state's case. So he's grasping at straws, but his strategy is sound. You got to do whatever you can to try to stop this guy from getting on the stand, because he's going to unravel everything for them.
And the irony of this, Jennifer, is when I spoke with one of the jurors afterwards, they discounted these experts because they didn't understand where they came from, because the court didn't allow the jury to know that they were hired by the Department of Justice and the FBI to figure this out. So the jurors didn't know where did these witnesses come from. I know there's more to the story, but they're not telling us. This time around, they'll just be able to say they're defense experts, which will actually probably help their credibility, despite the fact that prosecutors think it'll undermine their credibility because they're being paid by the defense all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, I think that Hank Brennan is really trying to make his point that they are for the defense and they are not independent as they would like to portray themselves. And, you know, despite what was going on, the judge didn't really seem very annoyed by this questioning. She allowed it. She allowed it to go on. And I thought what was really interesting watching the witness, I mean, I think Hank Brennan was effective in that he was really trying to throw this guy, and if you watched his eyes, he was kind of thinking like, what did I talk to them about? So I think it was an effective strategy. I disagree with my counterparts tonight. I think it was effective because it's getting the witness a bit unnerved, and that's what you want to do. You don't want him to be too comfortable up there stating his opinion. So he's starting to think about, like, Was there something? Do they
Yeah.
have something on me? You could see it in his eyes.
Yeah,
So.
the big problem I had, though, was like the bulk of his angry moments were when he was not listening to what the witness actually said and mischaracterized it. Like, people have done that to me on the air as well. And I have to,
That was wrong, but people do it. People do it, and it is wrong. I mean, he's asking him questions based on his own supposition as opposed to what the witness actually said.
Yeah, that's the problem I had with it all. All right, great news. Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, we're going to go through the timeline of John O'Keefe's cell phone activity. It is really important for the prosecution. Tomorrow's cross-examination, crucial for the defense. We're going to do that. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we take you deeper into the issues connected to the Karen Read trial. As we focus on Karen Read's drinking, the night John O'Keefe died, was Karen Read under the influence? Tonight, we investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
Is Karen Read a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Read was free! We know who did it.
The Karen Read Murder Retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central, on Court TV.
Do you have an opinion where John O'Keefe's cell phone was from around 12:24:33 on the evening of January 29, 2022 through at least 6 a.m. and after that morning?
Yes, based on the totality of all of the information that we've described, my opinion is that the device never moved far away from the flagpole.
Okay, if the jury believes that, that's bad news for Karen Read. That means he never went inside the home. He never went inside 34 Fairview. This is the Cellphone Cellbrite digital forensics examiner who's talking about John O'Keefe's phone. I want you to take a look at, we're going to take a look at the full timeline of the results of his examination of all the data from John O'Keefe's phone. Let's begin at 12:18 up to 12:32 and 16 seconds. Take a look.
So, at 18 minutes and 25 seconds, the device is unlocked using Face ID. We see the SMS application is in use. For around 11 seconds, a phone call is made from John to Jennifer McCabe. A phone call lasts 36 seconds, starting at 18 minutes and 47 seconds. That call ends at 19 minutes and 23 seconds, and the mobile phone application is closed at 19 minutes and 24 seconds. At 19 minutes and 29 seconds, the Waze application is loaded on screen. And at 20 minutes and 49 seconds, which is what this location on the side relates to, we see an incoming message from Brian Higgins saying, "You coming here?" At 22 minutes and 14 seconds, this is the start of the 3 flight climb events as the device is driving along Oakdale Road, I believe that one is. At 24 minutes and 26 seconds is when the Waze application is closed and the device is locked via the lock button at 24 minutes and 28 seconds. At 24 minutes and 37 seconds, the three flight climb events comes to an end. And at 24 minutes and 38 seconds is the first record that shows a speed of 0 meters per second. At 24 minutes and 59 seconds, the device is unlocked using Face ID, and the message, "You coming here," is read at 25 minutes and 8 seconds after midnight. At 25 minutes and 9 seconds after midnight, the device is locked using the lock button. At 27 minutes and 33 seconds after midnight, a text message is received from Jen McCabe saying, "Here." At 27 minutes and 45 seconds after midnight, the device is unlocked using Face ID, and the "Here" message that was just received is read at 27 minutes and 48 seconds. At 27 minutes and 50 seconds, the lock button is pressed by the user, causing the device to lock. At 29 minutes and 37 seconds, we start to get some Doppler checks, and at 29 minutes and 42 seconds, the pocket state cleared event is written. At 29 minutes and 44 seconds, there's an incoming call from Jen McCabe. This is answered and lasts for 7 seconds, ending at 29 minutes and 51 seconds. At 29 minutes and 52 seconds, the device is unlocked, and a second later, the lock button is pressed, causing the device to lock again. 31 minutes and 47 seconds after midnight, a message is received again from Jennifer McCabe saying, "Pull behind me." And at 31 minutes and 52 seconds, the Doppler check records a pocket state. At 31 minutes and 56 seconds, we start the health event that shows 36 steps were taken. And at 32 minutes and 3 seconds, there's a pocket state cleared event. At 32 minutes and 4 seconds, the device unlocks with Face ID. And again, I'll point out that makes perfect sense if the Doppler state clears, because it's no longer within a pocket, and then it unlocks a second later. That makes sense with the logic that's been identified. At 32 minutes and 5 seconds, messages applications on screen, and the message "pull behind me" is read. 32 minutes and 9 seconds, the messages application is closed, and the device is locked for the last time. At 32 minutes and 16 seconds, the 36-step health event is ending.
All right, think tank still with us. All right, David Otunga, to me, that's a very, it's presented in a way that makes sense. You can follow it. You're looking at the Apple Health. You're looking at the location, everything else. Is it telling the story well enough for prosecutors?
Going to me?
David.
I think it is until, we see cross-examination on that. But I think it is because it keeps John O'Keefe outside and in one spot. Everything makes sense. It shows basically he's arriving outside. He even gets the text or allegedly a call from Jen McCabe as well. And then there's 36 steps. I don't know, I didn't visit the house, but I don't know if that's enough to reach inside the house. But either way,
it is.
This is the last time his phone is used, and then it's locked for the final time.
Yeah, I think 36 steps, you can get into the house with 36 steps. It's about 65 feet, so you even have a couple in the bank afterwards. Jennifer Brandt, let me ask you, the way this is being presented, much different, much more organized than first time around in this case, and he's putting together the health data, talking about when he's moving, and to me, the 1222 to 1224, climbing the stairs. This is what the defense said was him going down to the basement, and that's where he gets jumped and he gets beaten up and he gets killed in the basement. But they have this happening at 1222 to 1224, which is almost 8 to 10 minutes before the Waze app stops. How much of a problem is that for the defense?
I think it's a big problem because, assuming this is all accurate, and I'm sure we're going to hear some cross-examination, so maybe they're going to attack the accuracy of it. But I find it fascinating. That this could all be retraced. You're almost there, and feeling like this is what's going on from second to second to second, all by cell phone data. And like you said earlier, this is something that the jury is totally going to understand. We all have cell phones and we all know they're sort of tracking our movements, and whatever we're doing with them is all being somewhat recorded. So I think this just hits it all home. And I think the defense, if this is really true, I think the defense is going to have a problem.
And from the beginning, Al, the key data that the defense was leaning on was the flights, the climbing data from the health data, saying that he's going up, he's going down, he's going back up, and they were arguing that it's him in the stairs inside the home. But according to the way they've put it together here, they don't get to the house until 12:24:38 after all that information is stopped. And he took it one step further. He took a look at the map and the topography and he was talking meters, so it was kind of like, you know, foreign language to me, but he was talking about how the street went up, the street went down, and the street went up again. They are heading off all the potential defense arguments, which is why tomorrow, like David said, tomorrow's the day. They've got to undermine some of this stuff.
Absolutely. This is the straw that stirs the drink. If everything in this is to be believed, the defense position, the defense argument, the defense, everything that we've heard as to beaten up by the police officers, this, that, the other thing, is completely untrue. So unless they're going to get their hands dirty and show that this is some sort of voodoo science that's being applied here, this is the straw that stirs the drink, and this is going to be the thing that will put the crowning, touch on the prosecution's case. It's essential that this get destroyed, because this guy put together a really nice presentation. I understood it, so I know it had to have been done simple and dumbed down considerably. And I understood it completely. And I know the jury understood it. You were so right about the last time. The last time it was very hard to understand this. But this was so spoon-fed and so well developed. This is going to be a tough one. If this goes through, if this stays in, then the prosecution has got a home run.
Now, the defense has their own expert, but David, I think where the attack is going to be, because this expert spent some time talking about the clocks and the way things are time-stamped within our cell phones. And I think the defense is going to attack the timing of this and if you move it 5 minutes one way or the other, it's a completely different picture.
Oh, absolutely. 5 minutes in this case makes a big deal. And I would expect that's what the defense is going to do anyway, because, one of the most important things is how long does it take to die in the cold? When was that? Was that at 6:23 or was that at 2:27? Was it on just because that initial tab? That was the whole thing that really got me. It depends on what iOS version you're using, if you've updated your iPhone or not. Because I thought that was kind of a smoking gun before, but that's a really big deal if it's actually at 6:23 and it's after they found O'Keefe's body. So I imagine they're going to attack, just the validity and the accuracy of the clocks and the timing with Apple and the phone.
Yeah, I generally, a lot of times in these cases, I look at the experts and I say it's a battle of the experts, blah, blah, blah. One side says this, one side. This one, I think somebody's going to win. Somebody needs to win these battles. That's how this trial gets won, one way or the other. All right, Think Tank staying with us. We're going to continue on the timeline, and we're going to take a look at what happens after 12:32 and 16 seconds when all the health data ends.
When you went over to the storm door and looked out, what, if anything, did you see?
I saw a vehicle.
And can you describe the vehicle that you saw?
I saw a dark SUV.
And as far as Ms. Nagel, did you make any observations of where she was when you looked outside?
I kind of just looked at the vehicle, and then I saw lights kind of over to this side. But then once I saw the vehicle, I took out my phone and I texted John.
That's Jennifer McCabe talking about some of the cell phone or some of the text messages she was sending, and John O'Keefe received these, and the expert who went through John O'Keefe's cell phone included those in his timeline, trying to lay out what was going on in those moments when John O'Keefe gets out of Karen Reed's SUV. Let's continue now with more of this timeline, the second part of the timeline, after the health data has stopped for John O'Keefe.
At 33 minutes and 14 seconds, we have the first of the 26,500 Doppler state records that all record pocket state. This is followed by several phone calls at 33 minutes and 35 seconds, 34 minutes and 9 seconds, 34 minutes and 38 seconds, 35 minutes and 9 seconds, 35 minutes and 35 seconds, and 36 minutes and 9 seconds. All calls from Karen. Call were all unanswered, and all resulted in pocket state being detected by Doppler. At 36 minutes and 9 seconds, and again at 36 minutes and 40 seconds, 2 more phone calls received from Karen, again showing unanswered calls and resulting in a pocket state being recorded by Doppler function. 37 minutes past midnight, battery temperature has dropped to 72 Fahrenheit. And at 37 minutes and 8 seconds, a further phone call, again unanswered, again resulting in a pocket state recorded by Doppler. 37 minutes and 31 seconds, a 3-second voicemail received from Karen. And at 38 minutes and 21 seconds, another incoming call. And at 38 minutes and 26 seconds, another incoming call, both unanswered, both resulting in Doppler pocket state being detected by Doppler. And I've also showed some of the locations that were recorded at around this time by the device. 40 minutes and 31 seconds, a message received from Jennifer McCabe saying, hello. This is the first iMessage or SMS message received by the device, which is unread. This is followed up 2 minutes later, 42 minutes and 9 seconds, by another message from Jennifer McCabe saying, where are you? And at 42 minutes and 35 seconds, there's a 40-second voicemail received from Karen. 43 minutes past midnight, the battery temperature has now dropped to 66 degrees Fahrenheit. At 45 minutes and 53 seconds, another incoming message from Jennifer McCabe saying hello. And again, we can see location data at 53 minutes and 7 seconds, placing the device on the front yard somewhere, kind of around the flagpole area. 55 minutes and 31 seconds, a message received from Karen stating, I'm going home. 55 minutes and 50 seconds, a follow-up message saying, see you later. Another location data, this is the location that's shown bottom left. And at 2 minutes past 1 a.m., another message from Karen saying, your kids are cooking alone.
Okay, 3 areas I want to hit here. Jennifer Brandt, let's start with this. The Karen Reed, I guess prosecutors are saying she runs him over and then starts calling him.
Yeah, I think that doesn't make a lot of sense, Vinny, because if she ran him over and she knew she hit him, then why would she be calling him? I don't think she was in a state to really calculate that. Sounds like they had some kind of argument. I think that's what they're going to say. And, you know, she drops him at the house and she's calling him. So I don't know if this goes with the theory that, you know, she hit him and then all of a sudden she's calling him. I think the Jen McCabe texts are more troubling because clearly she's asking, where are you? Hello, where are you? That probably is a little bit more troubling for the defense.
Yeah, Al, Jennifer McCabe has been painted as a villain by the defense. It happened in the first case, happened in a lot of the pretrial motions. She is sending these text messages. They're not being returned. 1240, 1242, continuing. What does that mean? What does that mean? If she's in the house texting, has she already started to set up the conspiracy at that moment? Or
and that's it's not. I mean, that's the whole thing. It doesn't come out as being a conspiracy at that point. It seems to me there's a genuine concern as to where he is, and you know that he's not in the house. Obviously, not in the house. And what Jennifer was saying about the fact that, well, you know, if she hit him, why is she making phone calls to him? Well, how many times have we seen that on cases where an individual has killed somebody and they sent, text messages, where are you, to establish an alibi as, well, it couldn't have been me. I was looking for that person, or I was still, I just assumed that he was in the house, or this, that, the other thing. So, you don't know if that was the reason why she was making those phone calls to him, but it could have very well been to set up an alibi. She realized that she did something wrong, and she's now panicking.
It's within like a minute or so that the phone calls are starting, which to me is so quick. All right, David, I'm telling you, the last thing, and this is new. I don't remember this from the first trial, and it was a big part of the opening statement as well. The temperature of the battery of the phone continues to drop. How could it continue to drop if he goes inside the house like the defense says?
I mean, I don't think that was as big of a thing. I really didn't, because it seemed like it made sense to me. Once he's outside, once the phone is outside, it's going to continue to drop. Because here's the other thing. That Jen McCabe, she texted him, but she also called him like 8 times. I don't know. She called him a number of times, which she then explained away as butt dials. Now, come on. There's just the butt dials. Enough. That in and of itself seems suspicious to me, which almost makes me wonder, maybe she was calling him because she was trying to find his phone. And then when she got it, put it outside. Because just like, I mean, this could go either way. It depends on how good of a lawyer you are to make the argument. But for Karen Reed, she could be trying to make an alibi by then texting him and calling John O'Keefe right after it. However, Jen McCabe could be doing the same thing. And that's also why she was calling to try to find the phone. Then they got it and put it outside under the body when they put him out there.
All right, I have about 30 seconds total here. I just want to score from today. Jennifer Brandt, 0 to 10, 10 being unbelievable, 0 being horrific. This expert on direct examination, 0 to 10.
I think he was an 8.
An 8. Al Wunsch.
I'm going to go 9 because of the accent. That always goes over very well with American audiences.
More credibility because of the English accent. Okay, gotcha. David Otunga, 0 to 10.
I can't give him a 10. I got to save room, but I'm going to go 9.5, and because of the demonstrative aids. The visual aids were awesome. They really were. Like the cell phone, all that.
And that sets up a huge day tomorrow for cross-examination. Big thank you, Al Wunsch, Jennifer Brandt, David Otunga. Great to have you back on the program. Great to see you, my friend.
Great to be back.
All right. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, we dive deeper into the big issues in the Karen Reed retrial. We take a listen to the voicemails left by Karen for John O'Keefe. What do they prove? We investigate.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
How do you explain it? 2 teenagers, they go from 0 to the worst crime anyone can imagine.
I'm done with this interview. Let me out.
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. Alleged suicide. This is Virginia Giuffre, a woman who accused Britain's Prince Andrew and other influential men of sexually exploiting her as a teenager, and she was trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein. She has died in Australia at age 41. This is after she was hit by a bus on March 24th, said that she was dying in a social media post on March 30th, and then released on April 7th. Some folks connected to her want this alleged suicide investigated for obvious reasons. We'll keep an eye on it for you. Right now, I need you to keep an eye on the TV screen because we have a missing child who needs your help. This is Kabria Thompson. Kabria, just 17 years old, missing out of Grand Blanc, Michigan since April 24th. If you see Kabria, please pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911. 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Grand Blanc Township Police Department in Michigan. That phone number's on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Kabria to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We've got another hour of live true crime, a deep dive into the Karen Reed investigation. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.